I have to admit something right off the bat. I spent a good chunk of my morning playing around with the latest version of that big AI model everyone's talking about. And honestly, it was a weird mix of emotions. It was equal parts, wow, this is amazing, and, well, let's just be honest, oh my God, I am completely doomed.
It's the AI panic. It's a very, very distinct flavor of anxiety.
It really is. I mean, I asked it to draft an email, then a recipe for a gluten-free lasagna, then a business plan for a dog-walking app, and it just did it in seconds. The cursor is moving faster than I can even read.
Yeah.
And when you see that kind of speed, it's hard not to feel that sinking sensation in your stomach.
Yeah.
You see the headlines, robots are coming for our jobs. You see the capabilities ramping up every week. And you just think, okay, am I obsolete?
Yeah.
Is a server farm in the desert about to do my job better than I can and, for free?
That anxiety is so valid. And it's palpable right now in, almost every industry. But what we found in the research for this deep dive is that, well, while the fear is real, the nature of the threat is actually quite misunderstood. We need to reframe the whole narrative.
And that is exactly why I'm so excited about the stack of sources we're digging into today. We're talking about future-proofing your career in the age of AI. And the core thesis here is something that I think will help a lot of people sleep better at night. It's this idea that AI isn't going to replace you.
No, but, and this is the critical distinction, a human using AI will replace a human who doesn't.
Right. That shifts the whole conversation. It goes from man versus machine, which is this, sci-fi nightmare, to man plus machine, which is a partnership.
Exactly. It's a tool, not a Terminator.
So the mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We want to move from that survival mode, that panic, to thriving. We're going to look at how to shift your mindset from fear to future-proofing, and specifically how to stay indispensable in the workforce of, say, 2026. Because this landscape is changing so fast.
And to do that, we have to treat this not as an apocalypse, but as an evolution. It's similar to the Industrial Revolution or the dawn of the Internet. The nature of work is changing, and we have to change right along with it.
So let's unpack this. The sources describe this major transition as the Great Shift. And it's basically moving from a culture of doing to a culture of directing. That sounds like a promotion, but what does it actually mean for, the average worker?
Well, think about what we've historically been hired to do. For the last, forever, humans were hired for execution. The grind.
Right.
Coding the website, calculating the tax return, writing the basic marketing copy, entering data into the spreadsheet. These are all doing tasks.
The billable hours.
Yeah.
The stuff that fills up the day.
Exactly. And the hard economic truth is AI can now do those doing tasks significantly faster than we can, and often more accurately. If your value to your company is purely based on how fast you can write a generic email or how quickly you can organize a spreadsheet, you're in a vulnerable spot. The doing is being demonetized.
Okay, so if the doing is being outsourced to the algorithm, what's left for us?
Yeah.
If I'm not the one typing the words, who am I?
You're the director. The source material uses this fantastic analogy that I think really clarifies things. You need to start treating AI like a super talented, Ivy League intern.
I love this analogy. Okay, so picture this intern. Let's call him Chip. Chip is incredibly fast. Chip has read every book in the library. Chip never sleeps, never complains, and never drinks too much coffee.
Right. Chip is a miracle worker. But, and this is the key, but Chip lacks context. He has what the researchers call context blindness. This intern can do the grunt work you assign them, but they don't know the company history. They don't know why a specific client is notoriously difficult on Tuesdays. They don't understand the delicate internal politics of the organization or the long-term strategic vision.
So Chip is book smart, but he's street stupid.
Precisely. If you ask the AI intern to write a response to this angry client, it will write a technically perfect, polite response. It will use all the right grammar. But it won't know that the client is actually upset because of a misunderstanding that happened 3 years ago, and that a polite, formal email might actually make them angrier because it feels, cold and bureaucratic.
So the AI creates the output, the text to the email, but it doesn't understand the outcome saving the client relationship.
Exactly, and that is the shift. You need to start viewing yourself as the worker bee who generates the text, and start viewing yourself as the conductor of the orchestra.
I like that image.
Think about a conductor. They don't play every instrument. They might not even make a sound during the performance, but they're responsible for the tempo, the emotion, the cohesion, and the final result. They are the ones who decide how the music should feel.
That is such a powerful shift. So we're moving from output-based work, how much stuff did I produce today, to outcome-based work, What was the result, and did it connect with a human?
And that requires a completely different set of skills. It's no longer about typing speed, it's about taste, judgment, and connection.
Which brings us to the next big chunk of our research, the human moat. I see moat used a lot in business strategy, like a company's competitive advantage. But here, we're talking about an individual's advantage. What protects me from being automated?
The human moat refers to the specific skills that AI cannot easily replicate. And what's fascinating here is that for decades, the corporate world has undervalued these skills. We call them soft skills.
Right. The fluffy stuff, being nice, being a good listener, having high EQ. We were told those were nice to have, but the hard skills, coding, math, technical writing, those were the moneymakers.
The script flips entirely in the age of AI. The hard skills are what the AI is best at. It can code better than most juniors. It can do math instantly. So the soft skills are becoming the new hard skills. They're the technical advantage because they're the only things that are scarce.
Let's break these down, because the sources list 3 specific pillars of this moat. The first one is high-level empathy and EQ.
Now, you might say, but wait, I've used ChatGPT. It can sound empathetic. I can tell it to write a sympathetic note, and it does a pretty good job.
Yeah, it can say, I'm sorry for your loss, or I understand your frustration.
But it cannot feel it. And humans are incredibly good, almost on a biological level, at detecting the difference between simulated emotion and real emotion. Let's look at a crisis scenario. Imagine a PR disaster or a very unhappy, high-value client who feels wronged.
They don't just want information. They want to feel heard.
Exactly. They want to feel that another human being understands their pain and is personally invested in fixing it. If they get a response that feels like it was generated by a probability engine, even if the words are perfect, the trust is just broken.
It feels dismissive.
In a world where content is cheap and infinite, where I can generate 1,000 emails and a minute, genuine human connection becomes a luxury good, it becomes scarce. And in economics, scarcity creates value.
That's a really interesting point. So the more AI content there is flooding our inboxes, the more valuable a real phone call or a handwritten note.
Or a genuinely empathetic conversation.
Yeah.
Correct. Connection is your currency.
Okay, let's move to the second pillar, critical thinking and the role of the editor-in-chief.
This is crucial because of the nature of how AI works. We have to remember these large language models are prediction machines. They're predicting the next word in a sentence. They don't know facts in the way we do. They hallucinate. They can be confidently wrong.
Oh, I've seen this. I asked it about a legal case once, and it completely invented a precedent. It gave me the case name, the year, the judge, and none of it existed. But it sounded so convincing.
That is the danger. So your role shifts from creator, the person writing the first draft, to editor-in-chief. You are the gatekeeper. You have to verify the facts. You have to question the assumptions. You have to look at the output and ask, does this actually make sense?
So you can't just copy-paste and hit send.
Absolutely not. That is professional suicide. You also have to apply judgment that the AI lacks. An AI might suggest a strategy that's profitable on paper but might damage your brand's reputation because it sounds tone-deaf. It doesn't have a sense of brand safety or cultural nuance. You do.
So you're the safety valve. You're the one asking, is this actually true? And is this actually smart for our long-term goals?
And that requires deep critical thinking, which is a very different muscle than just rote memorization or execution. You have to be sharper than the tool you're using.
And the third pillar involves complex problem solving. But wait, isn't AI supposed to be the ultimate problem solver? It can crunch data that would take me a lifetime?
It can solve closed problems. A closed problem has clear rules and clear data, like a game of chess or optimizing a supply chain route based on traffic data or debugging a specific piece of code. AI destroys humans at that.
Okay, so what's a messy problem?
A messy problem involves human unpredictability. It involves changing rules. Negotiation is a messy problem. Managing a team of people with different personalities, insecurities, and career goals is a very messy problem.
Figuring out what a client actually wants when they say they want something with more pop.
The designer's nightmare. Make it pop. What does that even mean? An AI cannot solve make it pop because it's subjective. It requires reading between the lines, understanding the client's taste, maybe even pushing back and challenging the client.
So AI needs a defined sandbox with fences. Humans operate in the wild, chaotic, real world.
And navigating that chaos, connecting the dots between disparate ideas, understanding human motivation, that is where your value lies.
So we have the shift to directing, and we have the human moat of empathy and critical thinking. But, and here's where it gets really interesting for me, we can't just sit around being empathetic and ignoring the tech.
Yeah.
We still have to use the tools, right? We can't be Luddites about this.
Absolutely. Ignoring the tools is a fast track to obsolescence.
Yeah.
The sources emphasize this concept of AI fluency.
And to be clear, because I think people get intimidated by that, this doesn't mean we all need to become computer scientists.
No, and that's a common misconception. You don't need to know how to code the neural network. You don't need to understand the math behind the transformer model. You need to know how to leverage it. It's about usage. It's about being a power user.
The sources mention prompt engineering. This is basically knowing how to talk to the intern.
Yes. Think of it as management skills for digital workers. It's the difference between asking, write a marketing plan, and asking, act as a senior marketing strategist with 20 years of experience in the fashion industry. Write a launch plan for a sustainable sneaker brand targeting Gen Z, focusing on TikTok trends and community building.
The difference in output between those two prompts is going to be night and day.
Exactly. The quality of the output depends entirely on the quality of your input. You have to learn how to frame the problem, how to give context, and how to iterate. It's a dialogue, not a search bar.
It's like learning a new language, but the language is instruction.
And then there's tool curation. There are thousands of AI tools popping up, not just ChatGPT. There are tools for image generation, for video, for legal analysis, for coding. Part of your job now is knowing which tool is best for the specific task at hand. You need to know what's in your toolbox.
There's a really specific, actionable tip in the research here that I loved, the 30-minute rule.
I love this one too, because it makes the mountain feel climbable. It's simple. Spend 30 minutes a week, just 30 minutes, testing new updates or trying a new tool.
That seems so manageable. Everyone has 30 minutes.
It is. But if you do that every week, think about the compounding effect. In a year, you've spent 26 hours actively learning R&D. You are light years ahead of your colleagues who are just keeping their heads down doing things the old way. It keeps you current without being overwhelming.
And it feeds into this co-pilot strategy. The idea isn't to fight the machine, but to let it handle the heavy lifting. There was an example in the research about a designer that I thought was perfect.
Right. Imagine a graphic designer. The old way is staring at a blank page, dealing with creative block, trying to come up with one good concept. It's stressful and slow.
The blank page syndrome.
The co-pilot way. Use AI to generate 50 variations of a logo concept in 5 minutes.
If the idea is in 5 minutes, that's
Ooh.
impossible for a human.
It is. Now here's the reality check. 45 of those ideas might be terrible. They might be ugly, derivative, or just plain weird. But 5 might be interesting sparks. 5 might make you say, oh, I hadn't thought of that angle. Then the human designer uses their taste, their training, and their understanding of the brand to pick the best one and refine it.
So you skip the blank page, you start the race halfway to the finish line.
Exactly. You're using the AI to maximize your creative output, not to replace your creativity. You become a curator of ideas rather than just a generator of them.
I want to ground this in some real-world scenarios because sometimes this stuff can feel a bit abstract. The sources provide a couple of really good before and after case studies. Let's look at the marketing manager first. We can call her Sarah.
Okay, let's look at Sarah's day. In the old way, maybe Sarah spends 5 hours writing a blog post. She's stressing over grammar, sentence structure, the intro paragraph. Then she spends 2 hours writing captions for social media, trying to get the hashtags right.
That's a full day gone. And honestly, by the end of it, she's drained.
Pretty much. In the new way, Sarah uses AI to draft that blog post in 10 seconds. She uses AI to spin out 10 variations of captions instantly. She gets the doing done before her morning coffee is even cold.
So what does she do with all that free time? Does Sarah just go home early?
Well, ideally, she reinvests that time into higher value work. That 5 hours saved is now spent analyzing consumer psychology. She's looking at the data to see who is reading the blog. She's talking to actual customers to understand their pain points. She's ensuring the brand voice is authentic across all channels. She's planning the strategy for the next quarter.
So the role shifts from writer, someone who just puts words on a page, to strategist, someone who decides why the words matter and where they should go.
Exactly. The value isn't in the typing, it's in the thinking. Sarah becomes more valuable to the company because she's driving growth, not just filling a content calendar.
Let's look at the second case study, the junior accountant. This one hits home because accounting is often cited as one of those jobs that's doomed. People say, oh, computers are great at numbers, accountants are finished.
It's certainly changing, but it's not finished. The old way for a junior accountant Involves a lot of data entry, categorizing expenses, basic audits. It's very repetitive, rule-based work.
Perfect for AI.
Perfect.
Okay.
So the AI handles the data ingestion. It categorizes the expenses. It flags anomalies. It does the math instantly and perfectly.
So is the accountant fired?
No, the accountant becomes a financial advisor.
Right.
This is the so what factor. The AI might produce a report saying, we are overspending in the R&D department by 20%. That's the data. It's a fact.
But the human adds the context.
Right. The human accountant takes that report to the CEO. And instead of just handing over the paper, they say, yes, the AI reports we are overspending in R&D. However, looking at the competitor landscape and our long-term goals, this is actually a strategic investment.
Right.
We shouldn't cut this budget. In fact, we should perhaps double down because it's our future growth engine. The competitor's pulling back, so we have an opening.
The AI sees a red number. The human sees a strategic bet.
That is the difference. If the accountant just hands over the spreadsheet, they're replaceable. If they provide the narrative and the judgment about the spreadsheet, they are indispensable. They become a business partner, not just a calculator.
It really all comes back to that initial thesis. It's about adding the layer of context and judgment that the machine simply doesn't have.
It's the synthesis of information versus the generation of information. AI generates. Humans synthesize.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's recap the main takeaways for everyone listening. If they want to start future-proofing tomorrow, what do they do?
First, acknowledge the shift. We're moving from doing to directing. Don't be the worker bee, be the conductor. Look at your daily tasks and ask, how can I direct this rather than do it?
Second, build your human moat. Empathy, critical thinking, and solving messy problems are your biggest assets. Lean into the things that make you human. Don't try to out-robot the robot.
And third, get AI-Fluent. Use the 30-minute rule. Adopt that co-pilot mindset. Don't let the tools scare you. Let them speed you up. Be the person in the office who knows how to use the new tech, not the person complaining about it.
The source material ends with a really strong call to action. AI is a tool. It's not a replacement for your soul or your brain. Don't hide from it. Master it.
It's a powerful sentiment. It puts the agency back in our hands. We aren't passive victims of this technology. We're the pilots.
I think that's a much healthier way to look at it than, panic scrolling at 2 a.m. wondering if you need to learn how to farm.
Definitely. Keep your hands on the wheel.
Before we go, I want to leave our listeners with a bit of a provocative thought to chew on. We talked about how we're moving away from effort-based work, how many hours you grind, to judgment-based work.
Right. The decoupling of time and value.
So if AI handles all the doing, the heavy lifting, the grinding, the drafting, and we're left with only directing and connecting, does our definition of hard work need to fundamentally change?
That is the big philosophical question, isn't it?
Are we ready to be measured solely by our judgment and our taste, rather than how much sweat equity we put in? Because culturally, we are obsessed with working hard and burning the midnight oil. But in the future, working smart might be the only thing that counts. If you can do the job in an hour with AI, should you be paid less? Or should you be paid more for knowing how to do it?
It's a scary thought for some, but a liberating one for others. It changes the whole contract of employment.
Something to mull over as you play with your next prompt. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
See you next time.